because I don't repeat the things that people have already said. And although I have a general agreement with what Kevin said about not collectively punishing football fans, when it comes to freedom of speech, which I'm a strong champion of, I do make an exception for providing a platform for fascism. And I suppose the issue is should we have a general rule, but then make exceptions in extreme circumstances? And I think what's happening in the world at the moment around Gaza, what's happening in Israel around the rise of the right and the record of Maccabi, I think is a good argument for making an exception. I think if there's a couple of people on from Birmingham, but perhaps people I might use some of my time just to say what actually happened on the nights so people get a flavour. Because I think the press lost interest because there wasn't a mass riot, there were no deaths or things like that. In fact, the counter protest was well supported. There's about 1,500 people at the counter protest. There were no anti-Jewish slogans, no anti-Jewish placards, no anti-Villa sentiments. There was no anti-police sentiment. In fact, the most of the speakers showed respect to the police, and most of the crowd showed respect to the police. And although there were reportedly 10 arrests, I didn't see a single arrest, and some of these arrests were for things like refusing to remove a face covering, etc. Uh, on the other side of the fence, which you did get a glimpse of, there was a very small demonstration of about 50 individuals who had a couple of Israeli flags and had some pre-printed banners and placards that called for anti-Semitism out of football. I've had a look at the organisation that produced it. It was an organisation called Our Fight for Israel Against Anti-Semitism, which was set up after October 2023. I don't know much about that organisation. Like I say, I don't know if he's particularly active, but was active around this football match in putting out pro-Maccabi publicity. Uh, Shortly before kick-off, as the late entrance from the, I should say, from the pubs to the ground came, there were a small but significant and loud group chanting Tommy Robinson's name. Now, I don't want to. I've got a friend who's a steward who thought that was just like football banter, that people just. I think it's more significant and an issue for us football fans that things that happen in the wider society are reflected in football and reflected on the terraces, which is why I'm a strong supporter of Blues for All. We do lots of good work in taking asylum seekers down matches, groups from Gurdwaras and mosques to matches, both the men's and women's game, and generally promoting a more inclusive view of football. And I think if one of the things can flow from this discussion is we've got a lot of work to do because, I mean, I know that Kick It Out worked with the Premier League to run anti-Semitism training courses against anti-Semitism at every Premier League club. And I know that it also has a good line on promoting a definition of Islamophobia and tackling it. But I think that is a big issue. The If you look at the two main clubs in Birmingham, both of them are in residential areas, both in predominantly Muslim residential areas, but the participation rate of fans from those backgrounds in those clubs is relatively low, not non-existent, but relatively low. And so I think we've got a job to do in football amongst supporters in promoting that all-inclusive attitude. I don't think I've got much more. Oh, the other thing is I wanted to mention there was a real climate of tension built up around this match with 700 police from 20 different police forces. And I know lots of employers in Birmingham. So Birmingham City Council told its employees, if you don't have to come into work in the city centre today, you don't. You had the University of Birmingham City and Aston University, who've got campuses in the city centre, cancelling all lectures after 12 o'clock. And really, there's an attempt to really inflame the situation, which thankfully on the day did not materialise. And I think that the protest was in good order, was passionate, but didn't overstep the mark.